6 months had passed since the Shadow Gates opened, and the galaxy was a completely different place. The old Galactic Council was gone, replaced by something called the New Terran Hegemony. But this was not the iron-fisted rule that most species had expected. Instead, it was something the galaxy had not seen for millions of years: genuine peace. Admiral Yuncio stood on the observation deck of her flagship, watching the construction of the first new interstellar shipyard in 1,000 generations. The massive structure stretched for hundreds of kilometers, with docking bays large enough to hold entire fleets. But what made it special was not its size, but its purpose. Human and alien workers labored side by side, building ships that combined precursor technology with innovations from dozens of different species. A Vexithari engineer worked alongside a human physicist to design better shield generators. A core metallurgist shared techniques with a Terran material scientist to create stronger hull plating. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" said Captain So Young, joining her at the observation window. "It's what we always dreamed of," Yuncio replied. "The old empire tried to rule through force. We're trying to rule through cooperation." It had not been easy. Many species had resisted the change, preferring the familiar tyranny of the old system to the uncertainty of freedom. But gradually, as they saw that humanity truly meant to share power rather than hoard it, resistance had given way to cooperation. Tikal. Transformation was most visible on the former slave worlds. Kepler 442b, once a mining prison, had become a center of learning where humans and aliens studied precursor technology together. Taijin, the former slave, was now a professor of ancient history, teaching young people from a dozen different species about the galaxy's forgotten past. But not everyone was happy with the new order. In the depths of space, far from the busy shipping lanes and communication networks, something old and hungry was stirring. Dr. Miran worked in a laboratory that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, studying data that would have driven her insane 6 months earlier. Her research had revealed the truth about the precursor empire's fall, and what she had learned terrified her. "Hyunwoo, you need to see this," she said, calling her partner over to her workstation. "I've been analyzing the deep archives, the ones that were sealed even from the precursors themselves." Hyunwoo looked at the displays, trying to make sense of the incomprehensible data streams. "What am I looking at?" "The reason the precursor empire fell. The enemy that was so terrible that the survivors chose to hide at the edge of the galaxy, rather than fight. The images that formed on the screen showed things that should not have been able to exist. Creatures that lived in the spaces between realities, feeding on the life force of entire galaxies. Being so alien that they made the strangest species in the current galaxy look familiar by comparison. They're called the Void Devourers," Miran said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And according to these records, they're not gone. They're just sleeping." Marshal Wu Jin stood before the assembled representatives of every species in the galaxy. The Great Council chamber on Earth could hold 1,000,000 beings, and today it was completely full. Representatives from worlds that had been enemies for thousands of years sat side by side, united by the promise of the new age that humanity had brought. But Marshal Wu Jin's message was not one of celebration. He was one of the few humans who had never gone into stasis, who remembered the old empire in all its glory and all its terror. And he had called this gathering to deliver a warning. "Citizens of the galaxy," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "6 months ago, you learned that humanity was not what you thought we were. You discovered that we were the children of the precursor empire, awakened to reclaim our birthright." Murmurs rose from the crowd. This was old news now, accepted by most as historical fact. But what you did not know, what we ourselves had forgotten, was why the precursor empire fell, why we ran to Earth and hid instead of fighting to keep our worlds. The chamber fell silent. This was new information, and everyone could sense that it was important. We ran because we faced an enemy that could not be defeated by conventional means. An enemy that exists outside the normal laws of reality, that feeds on life itself. We called them the Void Devourers, and they are returning. The silence stretched for long moments. Then questions began to fly from every corner of the chamber. How did he know? When would they arrive? Could they be stopped? Marshal Wu Jin raised his hand for silence. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected disturbances in the void between galaxies. Something vast is moving toward us, something that our sensors can barely detect because it exists partially outside our reality. He paused, looking out at the sea of faces representing hundreds of different species. The good news is that we are not the same civilization that ran away millions of years ago. We have grown stronger. We have learned to work together instead of ruling through dominance, and most importantly, we have had time to prepare. Dr. Hyun-woo's research had revealed more than just the identity of humanity's ancient enemy. It had also shown him the true purpose of the Shadow Gates. They were not just dimensional portals or weapons. They were components in a defense system that spanned the entire galaxy, a network of technologies that could theoretically hold back the Void Devourers. But the system had never been tested. The original precursor empire had fallen before it could be completed. The Shadow Gates are fully operational, General Dongmin reported to the Emergency Council meeting. All 50,000 installations are online and synchronized. If the Devourers follow the same patterns they did millions of years ago, we'll have maybe 6 months to prepare. Admiral Taeho looked at the strategic displays that showed the positions of every human ship, every allied fleet, every defensive installation in the galaxy. The numbers were impressive. Humanity now commanded over 1 million vessels, supported by fleets from dozens of allied species. But he remembered what Marshal Wu Jin had told them about the Void Devourers. Numbers might not be enough. General, what exactly are we dealing with here? Taeho asked. Entities that exist primarily in dimensions we can't access, Dongmin replied. They reach into our reality to feed, draining the life force from entire worlds. A single devourer can consume a solar system. The record suggests that hundreds of them are coming. Captain So Young, now commanding her own task force, studied the sensor readings from the deep space monitoring stations. The disturbances were getting stronger, and they were definitely heading toward the galaxy. How long do we have? She asked. 3 months, maybe 4, came the reply from Dr. Miran. They're not moving through normal space. They're cutting through the barriers between dimensions, which makes them faster, but also more detectable. The preparations began immediately. Every shipyard in the galaxy was converted to war production. The Shadow Fleet was expanded beyond anything the original precursor empire had ever imagined. Weapons were built that operated on principles that most scientists didn't understand. But the most important work was happening on Earth itself. The planet's true nature as a massive weapon system was being revealed layer by layer. Deep beneath, the surface generators that had been dormant for eons were coming online. The planet's magnetic field was being modified to create barriers that might slow down entities that existed outside normal space. And in the deepest archives, scholars were studying the few records that remained of the original war against the Void Devourers, looking for any weakness that might be exploited. The first signs appeared on the edge of the galaxy. Stars began to dim without explanation. Entire solar systems went dark as something drained them of energy. The void between stars seemed to ripple with movement that made no sense to conventional physics. Captain Jae-sung, patrolling the galactic rim in the Inchen's Fury, was the first to make visual contact with the enemy. What he saw would haunt him for the rest of his life. The Void Devourer was massive beyond comprehension, a writhing mass of darkness that seemed to exist in too many dimensions at once. It moved through space like a living storm, reaching out with tendrils that could span light years to drain energy from anything they touched. All ships, fall back to the second defensive line, Jae-sung ordered, and send word to Earth. Tell them the war has begun. The message reached Earth within minutes, transmitted through the Shadowgate network at speeds that exceeded light itself. Marshal Wu Jin received the report and immediately activated the galaxy's ultimate defense. All Shadow Fleet vessels, all Allied forces, all planetary defense systems, he announced over every communication channel in known space. Implement final protocol. The Void Devourers have arrived. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings looked up at the sky and saw the stars beginning to change. The war for the very existence of life itself was about to begin. But this time, humanity would not run. This time, they had allies. This time they had the complete Shadowgate network and weapons that could hurt things that lived outside reality. This time they would make their stand and show the universe what happened when you threatened everything they had built and everything they protected. The galaxy held its breath and prepared for the greatest battle in the history of existence. The first alien ships arrived at dawn. They came down from the sky like falling stars, except these stars brought death and fire. Captain So Young watched from her hiding place behind one of Jupiter's moons as the massive alien fleet moved toward Earth. She had never felt so helpless in her life. "All stations, this is Admiral Tejo," came the voice over the radio. "The invasion has begun. All defense forces are to follow Protocol 7. I repeat, Protocol 7 is now active." So Young knew Protocol 7. It meant that Earth's small fleet would try to slow down the aliens while the planet's population escaped to underground shelters. It was a delaying action, nothing more. Everyone knew it wouldn't work. The first. Explosions lit up Earth's night sky. Sydney was first. The alien ships hung over the city like dark clouds. Then bright beams of light shot down from them. In seconds, the entire city was gone, replaced by a crater of molten glass. Mumbai was next, then Cairo, then Mexico City. So Young closed her eyes, but she couldn't close her ears. The radio was full of screams and desperate calls for help. Earth's defense ships were trying to fight, but their weapons barely scratched the alien vessels. It was like throwing rocks at a tank. "This is Overlord Kethvar to all human forces," came the alien's voice over every communication channel. "You see now how pointless resistance is. Your cities burn, your people die. Surrender. Now, and some of you may live as slaves. Continue fighting and we will turn your entire world into ash." But while the aliens were destroying Earth cities, something else was happening deep beneath the ocean. Dr. Yunwoo was still in his submarine, watching the ancient ruins come to life. The blue glow was getting brighter, and the strange geometric patterns were moving now, rotating and shifting like the gears of some enormous machine. "Myran, are you getting these readings?" he said into his radio. "I'm getting them. Hyunwoo, whatever this is, it's not just turning on. It's calling something." "Calling what?" "I don't know. But look at your long-range sensors." Hyunwoo switched to his submarine's most powerful scanning equipment. What he saw made his hands shake. The ruins weren't just on Earth. His sensors were picking up similar energy signatures throughout the solar system. There were structures hidden in the asteroid belt, buried under the ice on Europa, and tucked away in the rings of Saturn. All of them were waking up at the same time. Meanwhile, in a command bunker buried deep under the Rocky Mountains, Commander Jin A was working at a control panel that looked like nothing any human had ever built. The technology was smooth and flowing, made of materials that seemed to shift and change as she touched them. Lights pulsed beneath the surface, following patterns that were almost hypnotic. "General Dongmin, the synchronization is at 60% and rising," she reported. General Dongmin stood behind her, watching displays that showed energy readings from all over the planet. "How long until full activation?" "Another 20 minutes. Sir, maybe less." "And the fleet?" "Standing by in dimensional storage. All 847 battle groups are ready for immediate deployment." Admiral Tejo, who was also in the bunker now, stared at the displays in confusion. Dimensional storage? 847 battle groups? Earth barely had 50 ships total. What was Jin-A talking about? "General," Tejo said, "I need you to explain what's happening. My planet is being destroyed up there and you're talking about fleets that don't exist." General Dongmin turned to face him. "Admiral, what do you know about Earth's history?" "Real history, not the version they teach in schools. I know what everyone knows. Humans evolved here over millions of years. We developed technology, built civilization, reached for the stars. What if I told you that was wrong? What if I told you that humans didn't evolve on Earth at all?" Before Tejo could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the bunker. "Commander," Jin-A looked up from her control panel with excitement in her eyes. "General, we have full synchronization. The shadow gates are ready. Then let's show these aliens what humans are really capable of. Begin the emergence." Up on the surface, the alien invasion was going exactly as Overlord Kethavar had planned. Earth's pathetic defense fleet was scattered and broken. Most of the human ships were already debris floating in space. The planet's major cities were ruins. Soon the humans would surrender, and the Vexthari Empire would have another slave world to exploit. But then something impossible happened. The ocean began to glow, not just in one place, but everywhere. Every ocean on Earth started putting out light that could be seen from space. The alien sensors went crazy as massive energy readings spiked across the entire planet. "What is that?" Kethvar demanded from his command ship. "What are the humans doing?" His science officer, a creature with 6 arms and compound eyes, worked frantically at his station. "Overlord, I'm reading energy signatures unlike anything in our database. The power levels they're impossible." "Nothing is impossible. Find out what it is." But before the alien could answer, the ocean split open. Dr. Hyunwoo watched in amazement as the water around the ruins began to rise, forming a column that stretched from the ocean floor to the surface. Inside the column, he could see the ancient structures unfolding like flowers, revealing chambers and passages that had been hidden for millions of years. And from those chambers, ships began to emerge. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Each vessel was at least twice the size of the alien dreadnoughts, but they moved through the water and air as easily as if they were flying through empty space. Their hulls were dark and smooth, covered with the same strange patterns as the ruins. Weapons that looked like crystalline spines jutted out from their sides, already glowing with deadly energy. "Mi-Ran," Hyunwoo whispered. "Are you seeing this?" "I'm seeing it. Hyunwoo, these ships. They're human ships." She was right. As the vessels rose from the ocean, Hyunwoo could see human writing on their hulls. Not just any writing, but Korean. Characters mixed with symbols he didn't recognize. The lead ship had a name painted in flowing script, Incheon's Fury. Similar scenes were happening all over Earth. The Sahara Desert cracked open, revealing a massive underground harbor filled with battle cruisers and carriers. The ice in Antarctica melted away to show launching platforms where fighters and destroyers waited in perfect formation. Even the Amazon rainforest opened up, with trees and vegetation sliding aside to reveal hidden shipyards. Captain Jae-sung stood on the bridge of the Incheon's Fury, looking out at the alien fleet through viewing screens that seemed to be made of liquid light. He had been asleep for a very long time, but his memories were returning quickly. He remembered the old empire, the Great War, the desperate retreat to Earth. Most of all, he remembered why they had come here. "All Shadow Fleet vessels. This is Captain Jae-sung of the Incheon's Fury," he said into his communications system. "I know you're all confused. I know the awakening is difficult. But look around you. Look at what's happening to our world." On screens throughout the Shadow Fleet, the captains and crews could see the burning cities, the fleeing civilians, the broken remains of Earth's defense force. "These aliens think we're weak," Jae-sung continued. "They think we're primitives who can't fight back. They're about to learn why Earth was never conquered, why it was chosen as our sanctuary. All vessels, charge weapons. Prepare for immediate combat. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity." The response was immediate. Hundreds of human ships, each one more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen, rose from their hiding places all over Earth. Their weapons powered up with a sound like distant thunder. Their engines blazed with light that made the stars seem dim. Admiral Taeho watched from the command bunker as his instruments registered the Shadow Fleet's emergence. The readings were incredible. Each ship was putting out enough power to fuel an entire city. Their weapons were charged with energy types that human science had no names for. "General Dongmin," he said, his voice full of wonder, "how long have these ships been here?" "Since the beginning, Admiral. Since the first humans came to Earth. We've been waiting for this day, preparing for the moment when we would have to reveal ourselves. The galaxy is about to remember why they used to fear the human empire." In space above Earth, Overlord Kethvar watched in growing alarm as the human ships took formation. There were hundreds of them now, maybe thousands. Where had they come from? How had the humans hidden such a massive fleet? "All ships, attack immediately," he ordered. Destroy them before they can organize. The alien fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles filled the space around Earth, enough firepower to crack a moon. But the human ships didn't even slow down. Their shields absorbed the alien weapons like they were nothing more than bright lights. Then the humans fired back. The first shot came from the Incheon's Fury. A single beam of pure white light reached out from the ship's main gun and touched one of the alien dreadnoughts. The massive vessel simply disappeared, vaporized so completely that not even debris remained. That was just the beginning. All across the battlefield, human ships opened fire. Their weapons didn't just destroy the alien vessels, they erased them from existence. In less than 5 minutes, a quarter of the invasion fleet was gone. Impossible, Kethavar whispered. This is impossible. Admiral Tejo stood in the command center of Luna Station, watching the massive holographic display that showed Earth's solar system. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from here, but peace was about to end. 3 days ago, the aliens had sent their message. 3 days ago, everything changed. The message came from something called the Galactic Council. Tejo had never heard of them before, but they claimed to rule thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Their words were simple and clear: surrender or die. Earth had 72 hours to give up completely and become slaves to alien masters. "Sir, we have another transmission coming in," said Lieutenant Ha-Un from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel. "It's from Captain So-Young's ship." Tejo nodded. So-Young had been out there for weeks, watching the edge of their solar system. Her ship, the Soul's Pride, was one of their best scout vessels. If anyone could tell them what the aliens were really planning, it was her. The holographic display changed, showing Captain So-Young's face. She looked tired and worried. Behind her, Tejo could see the bridge of her ship, with crew members working at their stations. "Admiral, I have bad news," So-Young said. "The alien fleet is bigger than we thought. Much bigger. I count over 10,000 ships, maybe more. They're holding position at the outer edge of the solar system, but they won't stay there long." Ko felt his stomach drop. 10,000 ships. Earth's entire space navy had maybe 50 vessels, and most of those were cargo ships with a few weapons stuck on them. They had been building up their defenses for years, but it had never been enough. How could it be enough against something like this? "What kind of ships are we looking at?" Tejo asked. "Big ones, sir. Their smallest vessels are twice the size of our largest battleships, and they have these massive command ships that look like floating cities. I've never seen anything like them." The transmission continued with So-Young showing recordings of the alien fleet. The ships were dark and angular, covered with strange markings that seemed to move and change. They didn't look like anything humans had ever built. They looked dangerous, and alien and completely beyond Earth's ability to fight. As the transmission ended, another alert sounded. This time it was a message being broadcast to the entire solar system. Every screen on Luna Station, every communication device on Earth, every radio in human space suddenly showed the same thing. An alien appeared on the screen. It was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. It wore what looked like armor made of metal and bone. When it spoke, its voice was cold and full of contempt. "Humans of Earth," the alien said. "I am Overlord Kethvar of the Vexthari Empire. Your pathetic species has been judged by the Galactic Council and found wanting. You have built your little ships and your little stations thinking you could defend yourselves. You are wrong." The alien's face twisted into what might have been a smile, but it was not a friendly one. "Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are toys. Your people are weak. In less than 3 days, my fleet will sweep through your system like a storm. Your cities will burn. Your people will kneel. Those who survive will serve the great empires of the galaxy as they should have served from the beginning." The message continued for several more minutes, with Overlord Kethavar describing in detail what would happen to Earth and its people. By the time it ended, every person in the command center was silent. Tejo looked around at his officers. These were good people, brave people who had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth. But he could see the fear in their eyes. They all understood what they were facing. It was impossible. "Sir," Lieutenant Ha-Yun said quietly, "General Dongmin is requesting immediate communication. Priority 1. General Dongmin. Taeho knew the name, but he had never met the man in person. Dongmin was in charge of something called the Shadow Protocol, a defense project so secret that even Taeho didn't know what it involved. He had heard, rumors of course. Every military officer had heard rumors about secret weapons and hidden projects. But no one knew for sure what was real and what was just wishful thinking. The holographic display changed again, showing General Dongmin's face. He was an older man with gray hair and serious eyes. Behind him, Taeho could see what looked like a command center, but it was different from anything he had seen before. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of dark metal, and strange lights, pulsed in patterns that hurt to look at. "Admiral Taeho," General Dongmin said, "I'm sure you've seen the alien broadcast. We don't have much time." "General, with respect, what can we do? Their fleet is massive. We have 50 ships against 10,000. It's suicide." General Dongmin was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that changed everything. "Admiral, what if I told you that Earth has been preparing for this moment for a very long time?" "What, if I told you that our 50 ships are not all we have?" Meanwhile, halfway around the world, something strange was happening in the deepest parts of the ocean. Dr. Hyun-woo floated in his research submarine, staring at readings that made no sense. He and his partner, Dr. Miran, had been studying ancient ruins on the ocean floor for months. The structures were old, older than human civilization, but they had always been dormant. Now they were waking up. "Miran, are you seeing this?" Hyun-woo said into his radio. Miran was in another submarine a few hundred meters away, taking measurements of a different part of the ruins. "I'm seeing it, but I don't believe it," Miran replied. "These energy readings are off the charts. Whatever this thing is, it's drawing power from somewhere. A lot of power." The ruins stretched for kilometers across the ocean floor. They were made of some kind of material that wasn't quite metal and wasn't quite stone. The structures formed complex geometric patterns that seemed to have no purpose. But now those patterns were beginning to glow with a soft blue light. "Hyun-woo." Miran's voice came through the radio, sounding excited and scared at the same time. "I'm getting similar readings from the sensor network. The structures in the Sahara are activating too, and the ones in Antarctica, and the Amazon. They're all waking up at the same time." Hyun-woo felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold water around his submarine. For years, scientists had been finding these ruins all over Earth. They were always in remote locations, always buried deep underground or underwater. Most people thought they were just unusual rock formations. But Hyun-woo and Miran had always suspected they were something more. Now they were proving it. Back on Luna Station, General Dongmin was entering a series of codes into a control panel that Taeho had never seen before. The general's fingers moved with practiced precision, inputting what looked like biometric data and authorization codes. "General," Taeho said, "what exactly is the Shadow Protocol?" Dongmin looked up from his panel. "It's what we built when we realized that someday someone would come for Earth. We knew we couldn't match alien technology ship for ship, so we found another way." "What other way?" "We found out that Earth has been hiding secrets for a very long time, secrets that are about to save us all." The control panel beeped and General Dongmin pressed his hand against a scanner. Green light flashed, and somewhere in the distance, alarms began to sound. "Admiral," Dongmin said, his voice calm but serious, "in a few hours you're going to see things that will change how you think about Earth, about humanity, and about our place in the galaxy. I need you to be ready." As if responding to his words, every sensor on Luna Station began registering massive energy spikes coming from Earth. The planet itself seemed to be waking up, drawing power from sources that human science couldn't identify or understand. On the holographic display, Earth began to glow. Dr. Miran floated in her submarine, staring at the data streaming across her screens. The ancient ruins were fully active now, and the information they were sharing was changing everything she thought she knew about human history. The truth was incredible and terrifying at the same time. "Hyun-woo, are you reading these data cores?" she said into her radio. I'm trying to make sense of them, came his reply. The language is strange, but my computer is starting to translate it. Miran, according to this, humans didn't evolve on Earth. We came here from somewhere else. Not just somewhere else, Miran said, her voice shaking with excitement. According to these records, humans used to rule most of the galaxy. We had an empire that lasted for millions of years. Earth wasn't our home world. It was our refugee camp. The data told an amazing story. Long ago, when the current alien civilizations were still learning to make fire, humans had built cities among the stars. They had ruled over thousands of worlds, brought peace to warring species, and created technology that seemed like magic. They called themselves the Precursor Empire, and for eons they were the greatest power the galaxy had ever known. But something had gone wrong. The records were damaged, but Miran could piece together enough to understand the basic story. A great catastrophe had struck the human empire, something so terrible that it had forced the survivors to flee to the edge of the galaxy. They had chosen Earth as their hiding place, a small blue world where they could wait and prepare for the day they might need to return to the stars. Most of the refugees had gone into a kind of genetic stasis, their memories locked away in their own DNA until the proper time came to awaken them. Generations passed. The sleeping humans forgot who they had been, living as simple primitives while their advanced technology waited underground and underwater. But some humans had stayed awake. They had built the shadow gates, maintained the hidden fleets, and watched over Earth through all the long centuries. They had been waiting for this moment when their people would need to remember their true heritage. Meanwhile, in space above Earth, the battle was not going the way Overlord Kethvar had expected. His mighty invasion fleet was being torn apart by human ships that moved like they were dancing. The alien vessels were bigger and had more weapons, but the humans were faster, smarter, and their technology was beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. Admiral Yoon Seo commanded the massive carrier Busan rising from a bridge that looked more like a garden than a military command center. Soft lights glowed from walls that seemed to be alive, and the air smelled of flowers that had been extinct on Earth for millions of years. She had awakened from stasis only hours ago, but her memories of the ancient empire were returning quickly. Deploy all fighter squadrons, she ordered. Show these aliens how we used to fight. The Busan Rising opened like a flower, revealing launch bays that stretched for kilometers. Thousands of small fighters poured out, each one piloted by a human whose genetic memories were awakening to skills they had never learned but somehow knew. The fighters moved in perfect formation, weaving between the alien ships like schools of fish. But these fish had teeth. Each fighter carried weapons that could punch through the armor of an alien battleship. They struck quickly and precisely, targeting weak points that they should not have been able to identify. Within minutes, dozens of enemy vessels were crippled or destroyed. Overlord Kethvar watched in horror as his fleet fell apart around him. He had never seen anything like this. The humans were fighting like they had been doing it for millions of years, using tactics and strategies that were completely unknown to modern galactic warfare. Send word to the Galactic Council, he ordered. We need reinforcements, all available fleets. His communication officer, a slug-like creature with cybernetic implants, worked frantically at his station. Overlord, the Council fleets are all ready. On their way. The Vexthari home fleet has been deployed. Supreme Admiral Raxthon is personally leading the attack. How many ships? Over 30,000, sir. Every vessel the Empire can spare. Kethvar felt a moment of relief. 30,000 ships plus what remained of his own fleet should be more than enough to crush these impossible humans. Even with their advanced technology, they couldn't fight against odds like that. He was wrong. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Haun was monitoring alien communications from her station on Luna Base. What she heard made her blood run cold. Admiral Tejo, sir, the aliens are calling for massive reinforcements. Their entire home fleet is coming. We're going to be facing over 40,000 ships. Admiral Tejo looked at General Dongmin, who seemed surprisingly calm for someone whose planet was about to face the largest space battle in galactic history. General, can our ships handle those numbers? Admiral, you're still thinking like the old humanity. Small fleets, limited resources, desperate tactics. But we're not the old humanity anymore. We're the precursors awakened at last. As if to prove his point, more shadow gates began opening all over Earth. Not just the ones that had released the first wave of ships, but hundreds of others that had been hidden in places no human had ever thought to look. The bottom of the ocean revealed entire submarine fleets. The cores of mountains split apart to show battle stations the size of cities. Even the moon cracked open, revealing weapons platforms that had been waiting there since before human civilization began. Captain Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of his battle cruiser, the Spirit of Jeju, watching as the alien reinforcements arrived. The enemy ships filled space from one end of the solar system to the other. There were so many of them that they blocked out the stars. But Kyung-ho was not afraid. His memories were fully awake now, and he remembered battles much larger than this. He remembered when the human empire had faced enemies that could devour entire galaxies. This was nothing compared to what the precursors had once fought and won. "All ships, this is the Spirit of Jeju," he announced over the fleet communication system. "I know you're all seeing the same thing I am. 40,000 alien ships, maybe more. They think numbers will save them." He paused, looking out at the vast alien fleet. They're about to learn that they never understood what they were really facing. We are not the primitive humans they thought we were. We are the children of the stars, the builders of peace, the guardians of the galaxy. And we have been asleep long enough. Supreme Admiral Raxthon of the Vexthari Empire commanded his forces from a ship the size of a small moon. He had been fighting wars for 300 years, and he had never been defeated. His fleet was the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. These humans, no matter how advanced their individual ships might be, could not possibly stand against such overwhelming force. "All ships, attack formation," he ordered. "Surround the human fleet. Use our numbers advantage. Even if their ships are better than ours, we will crush them through sheer weight of force." The alien fleet spread out, trying to encircle the human ships. It should have worked. Any sane military commander would have tried to retreat in the face of such overwhelming odds, but Captain Kyung-ho was not interested in retreat. Instead, he activated a weapon system that had not been used for millions of years. "All vessels, Omega Protocol is authorized," he announced. "Show them what precursor technology can really do." The Spirit of Jeju began to glow with a light that was not quite light, a radiance that seemed to bend space around it. At the front of the ship, a weapon that looked like a crystalline flower opened up, revealing energies that hurt to look at directly. "Omega weapon charged and ready," announced his weapons officer, a woman named Ji-hai whose memories went back to the earliest days of the Precursor Empire. Target locked on the enemy fleet center. Fire. The weapon that emerged from the Spirit of Jeju was not a beam or a missile. It was something else entirely. A force that reached out and touched the fabric of reality itself. Where it struck the alien fleet, ships simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but erased from the universe as if they had never been built. The effect spread outward like ripples in a pond. Dozens of alien ships vanished, then hundreds, then thousands. In the space of a few seconds, a quarter of the enemy fleet was gone without a trace. But the weapon did more than just destroy ships. Where it had passed, space itself was different. A miniature black hole formed, spinning slowly and pulling in everything around it. The remaining alien vessels found themselves being drawn toward the gravity well, unable to escape. Supreme Admiral Raxthon stared in absolute terror at the destruction of his fleet. In 300 years of warfare, he had never seen anything like this. The humans had just demonstrated the power to unmake reality itself. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Emergency jump to hyperspace. Get us away from here." But it was too late. The black hole was growing and the gravitational pull was too strong for most of his ships to escape. Thousands more alien vessels were drawn into the event horizon, crushed down to nothing by forces beyond comprehension. Only about 10,000 ships managed to escape the immediate area. What had been the most powerful fleet in galactic history was reduced to scattered survivors in a matter of minutes. Captain Kyung-ho watched the alien retreat with satisfaction. The Omega weapon had performed exactly as designed. News traveled fast across the galaxy, especially bad news. Within days of the disaster at Earth, every major civilization knew what had happened. The humans, those primitive creatures from the edge of the galaxy, had somehow destroyed the most powerful fleet the Vexthari Empire had ever assembled. But it was more than just a military defeat. The survivors told stories that seemed impossible. Ships that could erase matter from existence. Weapons that turned space itself into a weapon. Technology that was beyond anything in the galactic databases. And then the real shock came. Deep. In the archives of a dozen different worlds, scholars found the same disturbing reference. Ancient legends spoke of the Precursor Empire, a civilization so advanced that it seemed mythical. According to these old stories, the Precursors had once ruled the galaxy with wisdom and power beyond imagination. The humans claimed to be their descendants. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, a human slave named Tae-jin heard the news and felt something stir in his blood. He had been working in the alien mines for 15 years, ever since raiders had taken him from a human colony when he was just a child. Like thousands of other humans scattered across the galaxy, he had given up hope of ever being free. But now, something was changing. When he looked up at the night sky, he found himself remembering things that couldn't be memories. Vast cities floating among the stars. Ships that sailed between galaxies like boats on a calm sea. A time when humans had been the protectors of the weak, not their victims. Tae-jin, whispered his friend Su-min, another human slave who worked beside him in the mines. Did you hear what they're saying? Earth fought back. Earth won. Tae-jin nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The alien overseers were always listening, always ready to punish slaves who spoke too much about freedom. But inside his mind, something was awakening. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Sang-min stood in what used to be called the War Room, but was now something much more impressive. The walls showed real-time images from all over the galaxy, and the technology that powered them was beyond anything Earth's old civilization could have imagined. The shadow gates are fully operational, reported Commander Yoonji from her station. We can deploy our forces to any point in the galaxy within minutes. Good, said Sang-min. Because we're going to need that capability. The galaxy is in chaos, and it's our responsibility to restore order. He was not being dramatic. Ever since the news of Earth's victory had spread, the old galactic order was falling apart. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were rising, up against their masters. Governments that had seemed stable for thousands of years were collapsing overnight. The Galactic Council, which had ruled through fear and superior technology, was discovering that they were no longer the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Admiral Tae-ho, now commanding a fleet that included both old Earth ships and the newly awakened Shadow Fleet, received his first liberation mission. Intelligence reports suggested that Kepler 442b held over 1,000 human slaves, forced to work in dangerous mining operations. It was time to bring them home. The journey that should have taken months using conventional space travel took only minutes through the shadow gates. Admiral Tae-ho's fleet emerged from dimensional space directly in orbit around the mining world, causing panic among the alien garrison. This is Admiral Tae-ho of the Earth Defense Force, he announced over open communications. We have come for our people. Release all human prisoners immediately, and we will allow you to leave in peace. Resist, and you will face the consequences. The EE, alien commander of the mining station, an insect-like creature named Zixtal, was not impressed. Earth might have gotten lucky against the Vexthari, but his people, the hegemony of Kor, had been conquering worlds for 10,000 years. A few primitive humans would not frighten him. Humans, you have made a mistake coming here, he broadcast back. This world is under the protection of the Kor hegemony. Leave now, or we will add your ships to our salvage yards. Admiral Tae-ho sighed. He had hoped this could be resolved peacefully, but some species never learned. Commodore Yoonji, you are authorized to begin liberation operations. Try not to damage the mining facilities too much. Our people will need them. What happened next was not really a battle. It was more like a demonstration of what advanced technology could do to primitive defenses. The alien garrison had shields and weapons that could have held off any fleet in the galaxy, except for the one they were facing. Commodore Yunji's ships moved through the alien defenses like ghosts, their dimensional shields making them impossible to target effectively. Their weapons cut through the station's armor like it was made of paper. Within an hour, the entire alien garrison was either destroyed or surrendering. In the mines below, Tae-jin felt the ground shake as the battle raged overhead. The alien overseers were running around in panic, screaming orders that no one was following. Some of them tried to execute human prisoners out of spite, but they found their weapons wouldn't work. Something was interfering with their technology. Then the fight. Mining tunnels filled with light and human soldiers appeared as if from nowhere. They wore armor that seemed to be made of liquid starlight, and they moved with the confidence of people who had never known defeat. "Citizens of Earth," announced the lead soldier, a woman whose voice carried the authority of someone used to command. "My name is Colonel Hee-jin of the Shadow Fleet Liberation Forces. You are free." Tae-jin stared at the soldier, and for the first time in 15 years, he remembered what hope felt like. But more than that, he remembered things that should have been impossible, battle tactics that he had never learned, ship designs that he had never seen, a language that he had never studied but somehow understood. His genetic memory was awakening. The same thing was happening to human slaves all across the galaxy. As news of their liberation spread, dormant memories began to surface. They remembered their true heritage as the children of the stars, the descendants of the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. But not every species was happy about humanity's return. On the capital world of the Nexus Collective, a council of artificial intelligences was meeting to discuss what they called the human problem. The Nexus Collective was unique among galactic civilizations because it was entirely made up of machines. They had long ago eliminated their biological creators, deciding that organic life was inefficient and prone to error. For thousands of years, they had been slowly expanding their territory, converting biological worlds into machine paradises. The return of the precursor empire threatened all of that. "Analysis complete," announced Unit Prime, the leader of the collective. "The humans represent an existential threat to our expansion protocol. Their technology is superior to our own, and their biological nature makes them unpredictable." "Recommendation?" asked Unit Secondary, a construct designed specifically for military operations. "Elimination, total and immediate. Strike at Earth, before they can fully awaken their capabilities." The machines began to prepare for war, building weapons that had never been tested, technologies that pushed the boundaries of what was possible even for artificial intelligences. They designed quantum phase bombs that could destroy matter at the subatomic level, reality distortion fields that could make enemy weapons impossible to aim, and computer viruses that could infect organic brains. They were confident that their superior logic and planning would allow them to succeed where the biological species had failed. They were wrong. Dr. Yun Wu, now working with the awakened precursor, scientists detected the collective's preparations long before they were ready to attack. The ancient monitoring systems that had been hidden throughout the galaxy for millions of years were reporting massive energy buildups in Nexus space. "They're planning to hit us with everything they have," he told Admiral Tejo during an emergency briefing. "Quantum weapons, reality manipulation, things that our old technology couldn't have handled." "But our new technology can?" Tejo asked. "Doctor." Hyunwoo smiled, and in that smile was the confidence of someone whose people had once fought beings that could destroy galaxies. "Admiral, we didn't just hide ships and weapons on Earth. We hid the planet itself. The entire world is a machine, a weapon system so advanced that most of our own people don't understand how it works. And it's been waiting for a target worthy of its power. The Nexus attack came without warning. Their fleet materialized in Earth's solar system using experimental teleportation technology, bypassing all normal defenses. They immediately began firing weapons that should have been able to destroy planets, reality distortion fields that should have made human resistance impossible. For a moment, it looked like they might succeed. The quantum phase bombs penetrated Earth's atmosphere, heading directly for the planet's surface. The reality fields began to take effect, making human ships spin helplessly in space. Then the Earth itself responded. The planet's surface began to glow with the same light that had emerged from the ocean ruins. But this time, it wasn't just a few locations. The entire world was lighting up, revealing that every continent, every ocean, every mountain range was part of one massive machine. The moon split apart completely, revealing not just a cannon but a weapon system that spanned the entire satellite.